A few weeks ago, we sat down with Jonathan Deal from Safe Citizen and Damien Ensland from Saga to discuss what many believe could become one of the most significant challenges South Africa's firearms sector has faced probably ever: proposed changes to the firearm training and competency system. Today, we are back with Jonathan Deal, and we are following up on this matter to see where we stand today. And we will also be catching up on the proposed CIRA amendments that still have not gone away. Jonathan, good afternoon. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rian. Nice to be back home again. And you and I can
Always,
chat to
thank
each
you.
other. Yeah.
So, just for viewers who may have missed our previous discussion, can you maybe just briefly recap what the firearms training crisis is about? And then from there on, we'll move to the latest developments.
Okay, just very briefly, Rian, for people that hadn't picked up the previous broadcasts, any type of firearm proficiency certificate issued in South Africa is issued under the auspices of a quality assurance function, which is managed by an organization called the Professional Firearm Trainers Council. Subsequent to 2012, when the PFTC was actually created at the request of the government and SAPS, because the government and SAPS could not manage the disarray around the issuing of firearm proficiency certificates. Since that time, the Professional Firearm Trainers Council has certified round about 3.5 million individual unit standards. And all of those are verifiable. They can be produced today. They are held in high regard by SAPS, who relies on them for the issuing of competency certificates to the public to possess firearms lawfully. The change was that there's a delegation that PFTC works under a delegation from the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, and that delegation basically allows or facilitates the PFTC to manage this quality assurance function like it has done for the last 12 or 13 years. In short, the government wanted to make a change to that, particularly when I say the government, I'm talking about the Department of Higher Education and Training, and more specifically the QCTO. And that sort of dovetailed with a change to skills program type presentations rather than unit standards, which is something that the PFTC doesn't have a problem with. Where we did have a big problem was them trying to replace the PFTC with this, because there was no pathway for instructors, no pathway for assessors, moderators, verifiers, no pathway for tactical unit standards. In other words, anti-poaching teams, CIT teams, those type of people would have nowhere to go for training in terms of the standards that have been applied so successfully. So that delegation was due to expire at the 30th of June. It has now been extended once again for the third time by the Minister for Higher Education and Training until the 30th of June 2028. And if we as an industry and as a public and as concerned citizens don't put our foot down on the gas and keep it on the gas, when June 2028 comes around, we will be sitting with the same problem again. And it is an enormous issue. 2 years ago, the training in South Africa was interrupted for 19 days. There was not a single unit standard uploaded in this country. This, of course, has a significant effect on law-abiding citizens, private people who would like to become lawfully armed. Because if they can't get trained, they can't make application, they don't get licenses, they don't get firearms. That's the nutshell.
So is that where we stand currently? It's been extended, but when we should, I think the biggest mistake that the firearms community can make now is relax about it, because now there's another 2 years extension. Because as you rightly say, it's going to probably, odds are that it's going to come down to this point once again at the end of 2 years.
Yeah.
So this needs to be sorted.
Absolutely.
What's happening in the background in the meantime?
Okay, so I agree with you completely, and we have to keep our foot on the gas. Safe Citizen was involved in this issue about 2.5 months ago by one of the concerned parties, the main stakeholders in this issue, and we created a campaign that brought an enormous amount of pressure in social media, and that pressure filtered through to the government. We have managed to leverage certain political connections that we have, not in an underhanded way, in an open way, looking for public dialogue. And we have actually been granted a meeting with the Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training on the 17th of July. That meeting was actually would have taken place this last Friday, but it was cancelled at the Minister's request, the Deputy Minister's request. The government has got their hands full, I think, preparing for the 30th of June. And there were one or two other good excuses as to why the meeting didn't take place this last Friday. But Safe Citizen is fair and square in the middle of that campaign, and we are not going to let go of it. Even though we don't have a standing as a specific stakeholder like the Professional Firearm Trainers Council or any of the other organizations that have a direct involvement in that training, we are approaching it from a public safety basis. We're a public safety organization. We have a provable, significant membership right around this country nationally. And on that basis, we are not going to allow this situation to perpetuate itself and be presented again nearby June 2028.
What follows after this now? Where do we go to from here? If viewers are watching this and if they have not yet become involved, what do they need to do to get involved?
There's not too much that the man in the street or the person who makes use of competency training or proficiency training to possess a firearm can actually do proactively at this stage, other than they could certainly write to the Department of Higher Education and Training and say, these are the documents that we've seen from Safe Citizen, for instance, and that campaign. We are really concerned about this and we would like to express our concern as South African citizens. I also didn't mention to you that Safe Citizen has compiled a critical review of this whole issue. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fairly scientifically researched document. It's a very sensible document grounded in fact and realistic evidence. And that has also been submitted to the Minister, the Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training, as a reference point for our discussion with her. It is a work in progress, but at a point in time, it is going to be presented to the government, to policymakers in education and the police, and it's going to be presented to the public. And the point that that document makes, I think the overriding point is that proficiency training for firearms is not necessarily only an education issue. If there's a failure in that training sphere, it will impact on the public from a public safety point of view because it goes directly to the heart of lawful firearm possession in this country. So it is a significant threat. If this thing is not properly managed and that system falls down, effectively, if your brother-in-law or somebody's mother-in-law that is watching this program, when you broadcast it, wants to apply for a license to possess a firearm, they need a proficiency certificate. If they can't get trained, there isn't going to be any application. And that is where the growth of private firearm possession, lawful private firearm possession in this country will stop. So yes, the public can be involved, but essentially supporting the organizations in South Africa like SAGA, South African Gun Owners Association, NatShoot, NAFU, the National Association of Responsible Firearm Owners, making sure that they are involved in platforms like that and being members of Safe Citizen, for instance, for free, will make sure that we build a groundswell of support to address this type of thing.
Jonathan, thank you for updating us on that. You asked that we also talk about the proposed CIRA regulations. We haven't discussed this in a while. It's been months, But we know that we are, and I agree with you, of the opinion that if those come into being, it will basically bring the security industry to its knees. They will not be able to fulfill the mandate. And it still hasn't gone away. What's happening with that?
Well, Rion, this thing raised its head for me in the last day or two, excuse me, because I picked up a media statement by SAPS, and this is around the unrest that is expected in our country around about June the 30th. We all know about that. Everybody's speculating about it. There are a lot of, not a lot, but there are certain violent rhetorical videos going around from various persons. We're hoping, of course, that the state will take action against them, like they would against most other people who made those type of statements. And it's not making people feel very comfortable. So a lot of speculation about what is going to happen in South Africa tomorrow and the few days that follow after that. We're obviously all hoping for very good results. In other words, as minimal disruption as possible, no loss of life, no damage to private and public property, and so on. But what came out interestingly was that there was a statement issued by the South African Police Services on the 24th of June. And that key passage states, they were talking about a meeting, I think with the security industry or around this whole issue with various public agencies. The meeting recognized the important role that the private security industry can play as a force multiplier in support of the South African police services, particularly during periods of heightened security concerns and increased public mobilization. And then SAP's operational briefing also around that, it said a subsequent operational briefing expanded on this. Acting National Commissioner Lieutenant General Puleng Dimpame stated that SAPS has strengthened communication with the private security regulatory authority, private security companies, and other stakeholders. The sector, it says, is regarded as a critical partner and force multiplier because of its national footprint and technological resources. So, it just about took my breath away, Rion, because I thought,
well, that means this whole silliness with CIRA, these proposed amendments, should actually just now go away forever.
Yes. And I think that for your viewers who might not be aware of the CIRA thing, around about 2025, somewhere early in 2025, the CIRA, which is the Private Security Regulatory Industry Authority, CIRA, Private Security Industry Regulation Authority, put out this new proposed amendments particularly to the firearm regulations, other regulations also, but particularly the firearm regulations. And some of the stuff that came out of that, and Safe Citizen sat down, we created a formal response to that. I think my response was around about 65 pages, a very detailed document pointing out stuff to them. But some of the stuff that came out of those proposed regulations, semi-automatic rifles for the security industry. The amendments seek to restrict the use of semi-automatic rifles to only 3 specific scenarios: cash in transit, critical infrastructure protection, in other words, like power stations and that sort of stuff, water pumping stations, and anti-poaching units. Ammunition limits, the draft proposes capping issued ammunition to an undefined reasonable quantity, leaving companies and officers uncertain about operational compliance. So imagine now if this stuff was law, and it's capping to an undefined quantity, but now the SAPs want the security industry to assist them, like they did in 2021.
Yes.
Prohibited non-lethals. Essential tools like rubber bullets, water cannons, tear gas, and stun devices have been classified as prohibited weapons. But here's an interesting one. Prior approval requirements. Listen to this, thinking about tomorrow, the 30th of June. Security companies would have to submit a formal application to CIRA 7 days in advance to utilize non-lethal weapons. Stakeholders argue this makes crowd control during spontaneous protests or riots near impossible. So what are they supposed to do? Like they've got to send like 7 days before tomorrow, last week, Monday, they had
Yes.
to send a application to CIRA, let's say, and this is like on how many thousand security companies. If all of those
There's probably all of
applications
them.
arrived there last week, Monday, thousands of applications, how is CIRA? Man, CIRA won't even process 20 applications in a week if they get to
No,
it. Okay?
no.
Handcuffs. The amendment proposes classifying handcuffs as weapons rather than standard restraining tools.
Oh, I remember the handcuff part.
So I ask you with
Yes.
tears in my eyes, the most basic equipment for any type of security officer in any country, anywhere in the whole world, is a set of handcuffs. But in South Africa, it is now classified as a weapon. Want wat, jy maak mense seer met die
Well,
boeie.
I mean, it was ridiculous then, it's ridiculous now. And it should honestly just vanish
Yeah.
into the woodworks and never surface again after what you've just read, the documentation from SAPS and the acting police commission, the
Yeah.
acting police minister,
Yeah.
regarding how they see the role of private security in the planned riots. I mean,
Yeah.
it should just never ever be mentioned again after this.
Yeah. It must be,
Whether it
yeah.
will
It's
is
so
another
embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
it is embarrassing.
You know, I
Well,
looked at,
Jonathan,
I just want to go
sure.
back a little bit up because I'm on a bit of a soapbox here with this thing, but because I put
Okay.
a lot of effort into writing to them, and a formal response. I
Mhm.
looked at the CIRA mandate. This is the mandate of the Private Security Industry Regulation Authority. And I compared that to this set of regulations that they were pushing, like the government's whipping boy, pushing to implement. These are the people that are supposed to represent the security industry. The government comes along with an ideological move to implement regulations that will hobble these people. And who's pushing it? The very agency that is supposed to look after the security industry. This is their mandate. And these are just excerpts. Promote a legitimate private security industry acting in terms of the Constitution and applicable law. How can those amendments be promoting the industry? Ensure security service providers act in the public and national interest. Promote professionalism, transparency, accountability. Promote stability of the private security industry. Encourage efficiency and responsibility in rendering security services. What, now you can't have handcuffs? Promote, maintain, and protect the status and interests of security service providers. Promote the protection and enforcement of rights of security officers and employees. Protect the interests of the users of security services. And the development of responsive security services to user and community needs. Every single one of those parts of their mandate that I pulled out, if those regulations came into play with the willing cooperation of CIRA, who are supposed to protect the industry, as we've just heard, it makes a complete mockery of everything. And this is an industry that is employing around about 600,000 people in this country.
They would, in effect, be kneecapping the industry instead of protecting anything and promoting anything as per their mandate.
Completely.
It's a farce. Hopefully that will actually now go away. We trust. Let us see. Jonathan, thank you so much for spending some time with us again. Good luck with carrying on with this fight. All the best. I don't know how you always manage that without serious amounts of booze to keep you prepped up. I swear to goodness, because that will it's a tall order. But thank you so much for doing that and fulfilling that role. It's so necessary. For the viewers, if you like this video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video, and smash that bell icon so that you can get notifications of new videos coming out. And as always, there is a link in the description below to the training on offer. If you're interested in that, check it out, and we look forward to seeing you on a range one of these days. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Riaan, thanks very much. And I want to leave you and your viewers with our new slogan for Safe Citizen, which I quite like. Safe Citizen. Please remember, community safety is a family business.